small business owner. And so to start with the employees, the person that we start with, of course, is the key person. That's that again, that person that if something happened to them, this business could be in trouble. And what we usually talk to them about is the idea of key person insurance. Many of you on this call have probably written those. That's probably the first business case you'll write usually is a key person policy. And the idea here is to really dive into the fact that although they probably have insurance for buildings and for liability and other things like that, they can also insure the lives of people. And this is a very misunderstood piece. I will tell you that only 22% of the small businesses in the United States, and there's 33 million of them, only 22% have admitted to having key person insurance. So that gives us about 25 million opportunities to talk about something that a small business owner may have never heard of before, may hadn't thought about it, or maybe they have and just didn't act on it. But this is a this is a really big deal here because this could be the loss of a key person could be devastating. And so again, the idea is that we would underwrite this person, place life insurance on them. The business would be the payer and the business would also be the beneficiary of the death benefit if something happened. Now, you can't replace the key person, obviously, but an infusion of cash, income tax free, into the business could help weather the storm while they do try to find someone to fill in and come in and try to take over. So a big, big story there. But here's the thing about the key person is we're not just worried about them dying too soon. We're also worried about them leaving too soon because if they're as good as we think they are and probably as they think they are, they're probably being recruited. And so what has this business done to keep this person here, to keep them happy? What can they do? And so many of you, again, have heard of this, the good old Section 162 bonus, where you carve out an employee or employees and you bonus them extra money and you don't just give it to them. We put it inside a cash-rich life insurance contract where the cash value will grow in the policy. The employee will own this policy, but the business is funding it, which is a nice, very sticky situation there where they really like this. And they can pick the beneficiaries. The cash is theirs. Of course, the death benefit one day will be theirs as well. You can put stipulations on it and restrictions as well. Businesses can do all kinds of things with here. And what I love about this is the flexibility of it and also the idea that you can be completely discriminatory because and when you might call it carve out, I call it discriminatory, where you don't have to do this for every employee. You can just do it for the ones who want to. So the business owner is in full control of this solution right here. And it is a great way to not only retain employees, but even to recruit and reward them as well. A key person that knows this type of thing is available. It's a very powerful solution for a business owner. And so what you've got here at this top, just right here, is really two solutions on the same person. And if you think about it, how many times does anyone want to go through underwriting? Well, the answer is zero. But if you do go through it once, then go back and show them the other one. So in other words, if you place the key person policy, you show them that, you place that, the very next discussion should then be the retention play. Because if they're important enough to insure, they're important enough to try to keep and vice versa. So what you get is two solutions because the key person policy is owned by the business. The retention play is owned by the employee. And so it's two different policies, two different solutions. And so that's what I'm saying is here with every key person, you've got two opportunities. And of course, the more key people to have, it just multiplies out. Now in the hallway, in my discussion earlier in my story, there were four opportunities for me because it was two employees. So that's the idea is to really think about this holistically. And as you get one, know that there's a next step, something to talk about then after that. So that's the employees. We're going to then move to the partners. And one of two things usually happens with partnerships or business partners. They're either going to buy their partner out or they're going to sell to them, right? That's not all of them, but this is a big one. And this is where the name, of course, buy-sell agreements comes from. That buy-sell agreement is critical with these partnerships because at the death of one of the partners, there has to be some type of rules of the road to decide what happens. And, many partners will say, I don't want to be the business partner of his or her spouse. They don't have the skill sets. They don't know what they're doing, of course, and all that. So a buy-sell agreement is important for both parties. First of all, for the surviving partner, okay, they don't have to work with anybody in the deceased family. They have the rights to buy the half of the business, right? So it protects them because they don't have to mess with that. But it also protects the estate of the deceased partner because they have a for sure sale. They have someone that's going to buy that. There's really three basic questions I like to ask here. So as you're doing the napkin, and again, this is all done. Steve,
Yeah, we got you back there, Mark. That was
what
that was
happened?
interesting.
Was that me?
Not quite sure there. Looks
That
like
was
you were
wow.
kicked off there. Yeah.
All right. Well, so we were right here at this one, right? I don't know how long I talked when that went away. Was I at the three questions?
Yep.
Yeah. So really three very easy questions for you to ask here. Question one, do you have a buy-sell agreement? And it's funny how simple that question is, but the reactions that you'll get, some of you have tried this before. You've probably seen that. Sorry for that. But it's really interesting, the answers, and many times they don't know. They might admit they don't have one. And if they admit they don't have one, there's your opportunity to intervene and say, hey, we need to talk about that. That's a big one. But the second one is just as important. So the first one is, do you have a buy-sell agreement? If they do say yes, which is great, question two, I think really sets it up then well is, okay, how is it funded? And man, that's a deer in the headlights question because a lot of them know to get the buy-sell set up, perhaps. They don't really think about the funding. So I always, if you got a business that's worth $1 million and you got two partners, one of them is going to have to cough up $500,000 to the estate. And where does that money come from? And of course, life insurance is a perfect solution for that because of the income tax free basis of it and the obvious leverage between the premium that's paid and then the death benefit that you get. So a great story there. And then the third one, if they get past questions one and two, do you have a buy sell? Yes. How's it funded? We have life insurance. The third question also is a critical one, which is when was the last time this was reviewed? Because we recommend yearly. Now, no one does that. I would tell you at a minimum every 3 years. This should be reviewed every 3 years with any business because in 3 years' time, a lot of things happen. And one of the things that might happen is they've actually been successful and that business is worth a lot more money than when they set the buy sell up. So, three opportunities for you to intervene on their behalf and really help a business owner there when it comes to the partners. And now, what I'm going to do is transition from business, I'm going to jump the wall and go to personal. And I will tell you, if you ask permission to go here, a lot of times they'll tell you, I already have an agent. I don't need to talk to you about any more life insurance, right? But I don't even ask. I just go straight to it. And the very first thing is obviously this one, the reason they have life insurance, that all of us do, which is your family okay? Like something happens to you, replacing your income or whatever you want to call it, right? Do you have enough coverage for you? Now, many times they'll think they do, which is fine, and we can offer a policy review, which is a great opportunity here. And as you know, policy review is really about taking that moment in time and saying, do they have enough life insurance, the right amount as of right this moment, right? That all changes, of course, over time as well. But I want to give you the next layer of the policy review discussions because, again, it's important that they have the right amount. But the second layer is really invited by this question. If they tell me they have plenty of coverage, I say, great. Are these modern policies? And that's a really interesting question because they don't know what you mean by modern policies. They might think they are, but they're going to ask. You got to wait for it and let them ask. And what I say by modern policies is, do these policies include living benefit riders, long-term care, chronic illness, critical illness, terminal illness, all of those cares? Longevity risk is a really big deal, especially in South Florida, as we all know. A lot of longevity going on down there. And, this idea of living too long, it's a terrible way to say it, but that longevity risk is real. Many of you have personal stories, even where you've dealt with it, probably with a family member. And so, one of the most popular ways to distribute long-term care chronic illness coverage is by rider on life insurance. And what I found is many people know how much death benefit they have. And they probably got that in their head. They don't really have an exact idea, though, whether or not they even have long-term care, chronic illness, and if they do, they don't know how much. And so that's your second layer here of policy review. Again, how much they should have the right amount. Do they have the living benefits riders? And then the third layer gets really personal, and that is, what about their spouse? Right? Because what happens in these situations is many times the spouse might have been a stay-at-home spouse. Maybe they think they don't even need life insurance on that stay-at-home spouse, which isn't true, but you could argue that. But if they don't have life insurance, they probably don't have any kind of long-term care or chronic illness coverage either. And man, that's a big deal now, because that spouse might be the one caring for them, but who cares for the spouse? And so there's your third layer of policy review. Do they have the right amount? Living benefit riders, and what about the spouse, right? And those are places they probably wouldn't let you go if you ask permission. You just got to kind of go for it. But then there's another piece for personal, and this is this idea of how they're saving for retirement. Because if you ask a small business owner what's their retirement plan, they're going to tell you, many of them do, they're going to sell their business. And boy, that's a heck of an answer. First of all, only 30% of small businesses sell successfully. 30%. Maybe they're the 30%, right? But what I also tell them is, so what you're telling me then is that your retirement plan has one stock, right? You're a single stock retirement plan. You've bought stock in your company, and that's your retirement plan. So the thought would be, hey, what if we could diversify a little bit? And many of you might call this a LERP. This is overfunding a very cash rich life insurance policy, minimizing the death benefit, maximizing the ability to accept cash into this beautiful tax wrapper that the IRS allows, right? And so it's called LERP, but the way that you don't call it a LERP to them, of course, but you could tell them something like this is, what if I could offer you a Roth-like savings plan, because they probably don't qualify to put money in a Roth, they make too much. And even if they could, it's limited. So what I'm saying to you is, if I could give you something like a Roth, okay, that, yeah, it's not a tax write-off today, but it's going to grow tax deferred. And one day when you take it out, it could come out income tax free. And it's not even reportable to the IRS. So it doesn't affect your Social Security taxation, doesn't affect your Medicare premiums in any way. That's a heck of a story. And the fact that we can customize that for them and put in almost any number that they tell us that they could put in there, it really becomes a great story. And again, like with the key person, what you've got here is also two solutions on the same person. If you go do a policy review and you end up placing a policy on them, the very next discussion is, let me show you, now that I know you're a preferred risk, how this retirement plan could work, right? You can run them an illustration and show them, because now you know their actual rating class. And so again, that's the thought process that I'm encouraging you to have, is that as you're working with a small business owner, just know that each one of these in a way ties together. So the final group is the heirs, and estate planning is a big one. That's what everybody would say is the first thing. The issue with estate planning, and especially today, is that beginning January 1st, the exemption is 15 million a person. It's almost 14 million now. And so you might have a lot of small business owners that think, I don't really have an estate tax issue, so I don't really need to do this. And of course, that's untrue. They're going to have an estate anyway. And but there's many more things than estate tax to talk about here. And for a business owner, the big one is estate equalization, right? How are they going to pass this business on? It's probably 50, 60, 70% of their estate. How are they going to pass that on to the next generation and not have to break it up between all the kids, for example? We could take this and say, let's leave the business as is and pass it on whole because you can't really break it up. But let's equalize the estate by using life insurance, usually a survivorship policy, very cost-effective way to do this and equalize the estate. This is some great, great planning techniques here that you can talk to business owners about. Even if they've already done some of this planning, great time to review this. Always, always great to review this. So that's really the important part with estate. And then the last one is something I actually wasn't good at asking when I was a planner, and I was a little remiss here, and I would encourage you not to miss this one, is that small business owners, as they get to be successful, they might start giving to a charity that means something to them, and they might be giving significant amounts to a charity. So the question really is, are you giving to a charity? Talk to me about your charitable giving, and if I could show you a way to magnify that gift for the charity, would you be interested? And of course, this would also be a nice survivorship policy if there's two spouses, where the premium still goes into the policy. The charity's going to own it, so they'll still get the write-off, but it really magnifies the gifting in the end. And so, like the others, both of these are on the same two people as well, and they're both different policies because one's going to a charity, the other one's helping with the estate. So place one, go back and get the other. And I think you can see really the idea is that this is a holistic approach to looking at business owners and trying to help them and really seeing how we can help them in any aspect of their lives. But one thing I want to carve out here at the very end of this is this retention play, because there's a lot going on here in the industry when it comes to retention and the ways that we do this. And as I mentioned before, it's called non-qualified executive benefits. There's lots of other terms for it. I mentioned the Section 162 bonus. There's also things known as SERPs and deferred comps. And I have follow-up training, by the way, if you ever want to schedule these, where we dig into a lot more detail on all of these sections of this. This is just the quick one. But some of the ways we do this with products, and this is why they need all of us, right? Is it takes a lot of different types of life insurance products to solve all of these, and especially in this realm here, because you can do single life 162 bonus and things like that. But there are also some multi-life solutions that might be interesting where you can do simplified issue and even guaranteed issue. And you get out of that whole need for the life insurance having to be underwritten by every person. So I want to give you kind of a graphic of how we've approached this at John Hancock, as it's a little unique when it comes to the guaranteed issue space. So what we've looked at is kind of the building blocks of why a small business owner would even care to spend the money on a key person like this. And so again, the idea is recruit, retain, and reward, right? They want to have this base, and they'll usually offer some type of life insurance with the cash value. That's that Section 162 bonus. And that's almost every life insurance company can do that. I think all of them can. As a matter of fact, everybody can do this. But this is where we're a little unique. And I wanted you to have this story in case you're talking to somebody, because you do have with us a kind of a unique offering. The next block I want to call your attention to is, I call it reassure. And what do I mean by that? What if we could add a chronic illness rider, guaranteed issue, without underwriting? That's pretty cool. And then refresh. What if we could add something we call the quit smoking incentive, which I'm going to touch on in a minute here, where if you got a smoker, we can encourage them maybe to try to stop smoking and do all that. And then finally, revitalize. Many of you have heard of our now famous Vitality program that we attach to our life insurance policies. Vitality is also available on a guaranteed issue basis. And so let's just go through these real quick. I'll start with the bottom. Is again, we're talking about the whole plan here. It starts with the foundation is, of course, that permanent life insurance protection with the retirement savings, right? That cash value that's growing, income tax deferred, and could come out income tax free if they've done it. But the chronic illness rider, this is really important now. To be able to add this to a policy without underwriting is pretty amazing, and a great story to have that to add to the story. The quit smoking incentive, I'll go to a little more detail in a moment, but again, this is the idea that we could offer a smoker non-smoker rates to try to encourage them to try to quit. And of course, Vitality, which gives us all the features and benefits of some great rewards, as well as now some really early detection tests that have become very important. So, real quick, the life insurance, how does this work? Guaranteed issue. Those of you that are in this business, you know exactly how this works, right? There's really no medical questions, there's no exam. We're usually looking for a group of people, right? And so for us, it's a minimum of 10 lives. But the way it works is the more lives you have, and I'm showing you the formula here, the more you can offer as a death benefit per person. So if you see this chart in the middle, I'll just give you an example. Let's say you had a 40 life case. You bring it to us, a 40 life case. If you take 40 and you see in the chart there, you multiply that times 65,000, you end up with 2.6 million that you could offer each person. That's a significant amount of death benefit. There's no chump change there on that. And again, that could be guaranteed issue, no exam, not even medical questions. So great story to offer. The chronic illness rider has become very popular for us. I don't know if many of you are selling this as part of what you do, but it's a big deal. But our chronic illness rider pays for all of these things right here. How can you pay for all of these? Because it's an indemnity policy. It's a cash indemnity. So somebody becomes chronically ill, they don't have to give us receipts and all that. We just start writing them a check. The check just goes out, no receipts required. And by the way, once they go on claim, we even waive the rider charge on there. So great story for a guaranteed issue. The quit smoking incentive. What we say to them is that if you've got a smoker in the group, we can offer, not if they want to take part in this program, non-smoker rates for 3 years. We'll give them 3 years. And then within the first 3 years, if they can prove proof of that they quit smoking, of course, that's going to be a sample, right? Then we would give them a policy that it would transition to a permanent non-smoker policy. For some business owners, this could be the difference, could be the difference maker for you when you're talking about a case like this. So great feature and benefit. Vitality, for those of you that aren't aware of Vitality, that's its own presentation. I couldn't possibly tell you everything now that's in Vitality. If you look on here, you'll recognize some of these companies. We get discounts and all these things for these companies, right, to do this. It's really cool. But the other thing is that you can get discounts on your policy. You can build up more cash inside or even lower premiums depending on how they want to structure it. But we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary of Vitality. These are some of the statistics that we've seen over those first 10 years. I think the big one is over to the right, is that almost 80% of the members, they report that their health is the same or even better, right? And this is working. And, to be greedy, we want people to live longer, right? We're a life insurance company. So it really works. The last thing I'll say here is in those 10 years, we have added so many things. At the top left, we launched in 2015. Everything you see on this chart are things that we have added to the program since it was launched. Everyone that's a Vitality member gets all of these. And so if somebody buys a policy, when a new feature becomes available for Vitality, they get that feature as well, even though they bought the policy many years ago. These are the big ones, and this is what you're going to hear about a lot. If you don't know what a executive physical is, these are pretty extensive physicals that some executives do get. They cost anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000. Now, we're not offering executive physicals, but we have 3 early detection and prevention tests that are now a part of Vitality. Gallery, it's a cancer early detection test. Prenuvo is a whole body MRI. And then Function Health, it's this blood draw that checks over 100 biomarkers. These are all part of the Vitality story. And that's really the idea, is that this idea of offering a type of a wellness benefit like this, here's some results of what employers have found when they add a wellness benefit as part of their program, okay? And the first one you can see there, increased employee engagement, right? That's pretty cool, which leads to lower absenteeism, which is great for the company, which leads to, obviously, improved productivity. It also, they found, because they're more healthy, less workers' comp and disability, which has lowered their healthcare costs. And get this, full circle, better retention and recruitment, which is the whole reason we're doing this in the first place, even for this. So that's really the idea, is to, again, embrace them holistically and look at a business owner like this. The last thing I'll put up, Steve, and I'll turn it back over to you. For any of you that are interested, I was asked to create a worksheet to help with this story. So if you want to QR code that up on your screen there, what you'll get is it's printable. You can print this out. This is client approved. Okay, you could literally print this sheet out. You could have it in front of you and use that drawing already, and just start filling in things as you're having those discussions. I think the feedback I've gotten, everybody's favorite part, is that at the bottom, if you get stuck, I've given you some cheat questions to ask them, right? Really basic questions that don't say the words life insurance, right? So for the hopefully that could be of a help to you. Steve, I think I'm right on time here, so I'm going to turn it back over to you to see if there's any outburst or questions.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please do so. Either raise your hand or type them in the chat feature. Mark, I'm glad you mentioned the worksheet. I pulled it up on my other screen here to make sure that we mentioned it as well. So if you didn't get a chance to get that QR code, no worries. I will be sending out the worksheet to everybody that attended the call today so that you have it. And my favorite part about it is also the cheat questions on the bottom there, Mark. Any great presentation, Mark. We appreciate your time here. I'm just waiting for to see if any last questions. I'm putting my contact information inside of the chat there for anybody that wants to have additional questions after the call or wants to proceed and move forward. Feel free to reach out to me. We'll get you in contact with the appropriate people at John Hancock. And if it's Mark, it's Mark. We'll give it one last second here for questions. I don't see any popping up, which means you did a
I
great
will
job.
say this, Steve, as we're waiting to anybody out there, bringing in Steve and his team for a discussion like this, I think you can never do it too early, right? And so, Steve, I didn't know if you wanted to touch on that. Like, I'm sure you're available even to have discussions early on, if they needed your help, right?
For
You and your firm. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, we actually have a case I'm working on right now with someone who has a business owner client, and we're going through making sure that they are asking the right questions to make sure that they have all of the things they need to have the conversation appropriately. And we make sure that they understand how best to incorporate the life insurance portion of it for the folks. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. And like we said before, Mark, you and the folks at John Hancock have always been great partners. We look forward to continuing that partnership and increasing these types of business sales.
Well, your partnership means a lot to us too, Steve. And I think having this chance to be on with you and bring it's a big deal to us. I will throw this out there for you, Steve, if to offer it. I
Please.
do have training modules for each of those four quadrants that goes into a lot more detail because I really went fast. There's a lot to
Yeah.
say there. But if it's of interest, I would throw that out to you at some point if somebody wants to see that. Each module is probably its own 30-minute presentation where we dig deeper into the employees or the partnerships or even some of the estate planning situations. So I'll throw that out for you as well.
Sounds like we just created a webinar series there, Mark, and I love that.
We
So
just did.
so we'll do that again at another time. We'll make sure
Yeah.
that we reconvene and go through those four quadrants as well. Mark, no questions came up. I appreciate your time. To everybody that joined the call, again, my contact information is in the chat. Do not hesitate to reach out with any of your business owner needs or any other life annuity, LTC, DI needs. We're here to support you at B.O.S.S Agency and help you folks get those cases settled through. It's year end as well. Don't forget, if you're looking to complete something before the end of the year, don't hesitate to reach out. Contact us as soon as you can. Mark, thank you again. Everyone that attended, thank you so much. That concludes our presentation for today. I hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Steve.
Mark.
Thank you.